All right. Hello, internet humans. To the introductory episode of our podcast series, Space Cadets, where we analyze and critique various space-oriented sci-fi films. You can call me Joel, although you will often hear me referred to as Crazy. No need to question that. That's just an in-joke. And with me is George.
Hello, everyone. So, what this is going to be is, as Crazy/Joel just said, is a very brief introductory episode. Just give you a little bit of insight into who we are, what the podcast is all about, and what we aim and hope to achieve. Basically, this saves us having to do so in our first episode or at the beginning of every episode, which just becomes boring for everyone else. So, anyone who's interested will be directed to this episode. So, Crazy/Joel, would you like to introduce yourself and tell the good people as much or as little about yourself as you'd like to?
Well, yeah, sure. So I guess really, what about me would be relevant? I guess I'm a writer, or rather, I'm trying to be. I am also a huge fan of cinema, as I imagine most people are. But I don't know, I like to talk about this sort of thing with people and don't really get much of an opportunity where I can have those sorts of in-depth discussions. So that's why this podcast is a thing. Yeah, it sort of provides a platform for me to do that. And I'm by no means an expert, but I have opinions that I feel I would like to put out there and see if anyone else vibes with them too. It's really my entire reason for being in relation to this podcast. George?
No. So yeah, Crazy and I met through video gaming over 10 years ago now, which is frightening and makes me feel old. God, that's frightening when you contemplate it. So we've been friends for an exceedingly long period of time, and I would not consider myself a great cinephile. In fact, there are entire areas of cinema I don't have a great affinity for. And I like Crazy, I've not actually studied film at all. However, the one great exception to that is science fiction cinema, particularly anything to do with space. I'm a very sort of eager amateur astronomer anyway, and that sort of probably feeds into it. But if you give me any sort of space theme cinema, I'm just obsessed with it. And it's always, Crazy and I have always sort of discussed this sort of thing. We've always watched these films together. And so I think this is a really good opportunity for us to actually explore our sort of shared interest, to share our ramblings and musings with the wider world. And if there are any poor, demented souls who, for whatever reason, find us interesting, then it'll be an outlet for them as well.
Well, yeah, and I mean, we both sort of like to come at it from different angles. Like I'm a great lover of story. I'm all about the story. And so when I watch a film or I analyze it, I look at it in terms of the characters and, just the general sort of plot.
And I think it's fair to say I probably have an affinity for some of the more sort of deeper themes and sort of underlying ideas and concepts behind film or behind narrative in general. I'll let people know my sort of educational background is in political science and law, so sort of dissecting things and looking at it from a very sort of analytical perspective is something I quite value. So hopefully we'll be a good sort of contrast and we'll be able to complement each other when it comes to actually reviewing films. So, as we've obviously established, the premise of the program or the show, whatever you want to call it, is science fiction, particularly science fiction space-themed films. So anything to do with space or exploration of different worlds or something like that will be within our remit. The episodes will be structured in a very simple way. We will dedicate a lot of an episode to a synopsis of a film. Crazy and I will go through it, talking about what actually happens, which A, will be useful for those who haven't seen the films, and B, along the way, we'll also be giving sort of our opinion and our assessment of things. And then we'll sort of conclude each episode with a review proper, where we really sort of dissect the film, go into where we think it succeeds, where we think it doesn't succeed, and how we might look to improve it if we were ever put in that position of having to write for such a film.
That's right, yeah.
Oh, so do you want to just let people know, Crazy, how we might get in touch with us, how we hope to sort of interact with the audience and how they can partake of the show?
Yep, so one thing we're really keen on doing is obviously we'll have some idea of the sort of films we want to critique, but what we feel might be useful is actually getting a little bit of feedback from listeners, so who are people who maybe have suggestions for films we could watch, and that would really help to give us maybe a little bit a little bit more of a broad cross section of films that perhaps we haven't seen or we haven't tried to go out of our way to watch before. That would help to serve the nature of this podcast or this series.
Because if we chose them all, it would just end up being horror films every week.
Yeah, it would just end up being horror films or what have you. But it also means that those who put forward suggestions actually feel like they're involved a little bit, and it helps really to develop well, the whole thing.
Exactly.
Understand what I'm driving at.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll be looking for suggestions. We'll be looking for feedback. So anything all of you internet humans out there can provide will be useful and helpful.
It will be. We ask with criticism that you do be a little bit gentle. It's the first time, really, on a scale that we both attempted something of this nature. So it's really would be beneficial to have as much constructive feedback as well as possible. Say what you like about the episodes, what you don't like, how we could improve it. Again, we want to try and create something that is as open and accessible to people as possible, that they hopefully enjoy and then also perhaps find a little bit informative as well along the way.
Yeah, definitely. Something to think about, but also something to enjoy.
Absolutely. So as it stands presently, we have already recorded our first episode, which is on the, conveniently enough, the sci-fi horror film Event Horizon. That episode should be, we're essentially going to probably upload this preamble and then the first episode simultaneously. So that should hopefully be available once you finish listening to this. And hopefully we will also soon begin work on our second episode. And we've sort of, I think, provisionally set ourselves the rough goal of trying to release an episode maybe once every 2 weeks, circumstances permitting. So we will try and get into some sort of regular pattern for episode releases, so people won't be waiting on tenterhooks from one episode to another.
Yeah, exactly.
Marvellous. I think that's everything I need to know for now, Crazy.
Yeah, well, that about sums everything up. Yeah, expect the first episode to accompany this one almost immediately, and more episodes to come in the future. Alrighty then. See you there.